Welcoming our next speaker on board, ladies and gentlemen. Put your hands together and welcome Karam Zaitoun. He is the EdTech specialist for Cipher Learning and an experienced educational technology professional with years of experience in e-learning, and he's passionate about improving education through technology. Let's go ahead and welcome him on board.
Go.
Thank you very much for the introduction. Good morning, good afternoon, and a very warm welcome to everybody watching. My name is Karam Zaitoun, and I'm an EdTech specialist at Cipher Learning. Cipher Learning, it's an e-learning company that's based in San Francisco in USA. I'm very pleased to be joining you today in this webinar and to be discussing a very important topic indeed for Africa and for the globe, which is disaster-proof education. In the 54 African countries, we have more than 1.3 billion people, and there are a total of 226 million under the age of 24, representing 20% of entire Africa. And it's these young people that drive innovation and digital transformation. However, the adoption of education technology in the African region varies greatly, with some countries highly transformed already and others are still in the early stages. The African education landscape is undergoing a dramatic change due to disasters, whether they are natural or man-made, and it can strike at any moment. It could take different forms like floods, earthquakes, cyclone, or in today's case, COVID-19 pandemic. The growing threat of disasters looms worldwide and hampers our everyday life, including learning. And it has already accepted that disasters like the COVID-19 pandemic associated in the educational disruptions represent a true crisis. And numerous countries have already declared lockdowns on their biggest cities. And it has also exposed the deepening digital divide, which has severely affected the most vulnerable learners, including children with disabilities, girls, refugees, migrants, and young people living in rural and remote countries. And these natural calamities, when they strike, result to cancellation of classes. And when classes are suspended, schools are required to make up for the lost instruction time with extra school days for students, which often are done on Saturdays or on weekends. Some of the challenges of make-up classes are rescheduling of the class. So it's very difficult to reschedule a class because teachers must organize a common schedule in which all students affected by class cancellations can be gathered to attend the makeup class. Finding a classroom. Once a common schedule is found, the next hurdle is to find a vacant classroom that fits the schedule and to hold up the makeup class. And Since this is a makeup class, higher students are not obligated to attend or not required to attend. But for students of basic education, attendance is mandatory. So getting everyone to attend a makeup class can be very challenging for teachers, as they want to gather at least 100% of attendance during the makeup class. But sometimes it's not possible to happen because of the conflict in scheduling. And also getting students to stay engaged. So you need to keep and you need to monitor the student engagement and participation and to keep their attention. And now we are not just seeing, but we are experiencing how the education process is disrupted and brought to standstill in many countries right now. But instead of pressing the panic button, there's always a better solution than rescheduling classes to make up for the lost time. So global education in Africa is experiencing more challenges in terms of educational access, effectiveness, and relevance, which are almost affected during disasters due to factors such as availability of technological infrastructure, connectivity, digital skills, and institutional capacity. So we just need to keep in mind, despite the challenges, that our goals remains. We want our students to be future work ready, and we want continuous learning. So children who are out of school for a long time after a disaster are in danger of falling prey to child labor, early marriages, trafficking, and other risks. And many students will never return to education. We want also to keep developing their skills. And thoughts, things have changed. We want to make sure that no child is left behind in education, in the classroom, or wherever the classroom. So it's our collective responsibility to harness digital technologies for inclusion and to equip all learners with digital skills. And together we need to have a flexible approach for innovative education learning environments to ensure that no child is left behind. And since African region is disaster prone, it has experienced many disasters that disrupted classes here. So what is a disaster-proof education? Disaster-proof education is a proactive measure that makes teaching and learning continue even in calamities, both natural and man-made. And it's also a measure that avoids taking extra days for makeup classes. And it also can be used to be ready in situations like these. There are many ways by which we can do this, by the presence of technology in education. And there are many things to make learnings still happen anytime, anywhere. Digital tools for teaching and learning are now available to help us do this and to help us make learning happens, even in the worst case scenario. So e-learning comes with a great importance. So for one, it is student-centered. So more focus will be on the needs of the learners, how they will learn, how they will access the learning resources, and how easy it is for them to understand the learning materials. Accessibility. So with internet and proper devices or any devices, learners can get access you need to that learn anytime and anywhere. So no need to be in a physical classroom all the time, just to be able to join activities or work in groups. It also cost effective. It means paperless, less travel, less electricity to be used in the school. So imagine how much can be saved when handouts and materials need not to be printed. Learning can also be more personalized and customized to the needs of the learners. Also, learning can be inclusive. So since there are a lot of digital tools for e-learning now that also caters to learning with different needs. It also supports differentiated instruction and adaptive learning. And this, if you happen to have an LMS that support this approach of teaching. So how do we start? We have realized that disasters have taught us few things. First, we have to be ready for any major disruptions that presents itself. Then it also gets us thinking to take a step forward and further on how we are going to move to hybrid mode of learning or the blended mode of e-learning, a combination of remote, on campus, and start exploring those kinds of conversations, especially as the impact and pedagogy and learning teaching methods has proven to be one of the challenges in this period. So how do we do online assessments? How do we ensure the validity and credibility of all those assessments that we know? We know that we have proctoring tools and software, but again, with digital divide, these softwares do not offer us the kinds of solutions that schools and universities are looking for. So it means that we need to revisit our assessment methodologies and how we assess and how we teach. So we need to plan for these new ways of working in education. So there is a process that I want to share with you today. It's called PI. So PI is an acronym that stands for plan, implement, and evaluate. So during the planning process, it's very important for us to consider these components. Clear objectives. So it's very important for us to have clear objectives and ask ourselves, what are our goals and what are your goals and what are you trying to achieve? And this will help you, give you the direction on what to do. It's also important that we assess the school's capabilities and know your school technology and pedagogy capabilities to deliver and implement a remote teaching and learning. It's also very important that we identify barriers and constraints and to consider learners' access to technology and internet access at home. It's also important that you know your students' learning styles and so you can develop the right approach. Capacity building for teachers also on the use of technology that aligns with pedagogy and content. So during the implementation part, these are the components that are very important for us to consider. Content availability, instructional design, using the right tools, and choosing the right learning activities. So in content availability, you need to make sure that your content is readily available and accessible to students in the digital platform that you are using. It also helps you when the content aligns with your technology and pedagogy. So for example, if you are offering blended learning, you need to have an LMS that supports this type of instruction. So every child must have learning materials on a digital device. Using the right tools. So you need to have a look at what digital tools you already use and evaluate their potential to be used for remote learning, such as the school LMS. Education has a lot of options today compared to past period, and this is thanks to the synergy of educational technology experts who integrated the e-learning system, or now famously called a learning management system. It has the potential to mitigate the current dilemma in the continuity of learning. Some of the suggested guided questions in choosing digital tools. So you need to ask yourself, is it easy to set up and implement? Does it offer a free trial? Does the provider offer full support and assistance to users? What do you need and what are you trying to achieve? Does the tool possess the feature that you are looking for? What are the technological constraints and barriers between the users and the school? So learning management system, or LMS, it allows the teachers to create and deliver content that can be easily accessed by students. It also allows you to monitor the student engagement and participation, assess student knowledge, and track their performance, even outside the four walls of a classroom. An example that we have is Neo-Lms from Cypher Learning. It's a learning management system that supports asynchronous learning. It allows teachers to create, manage, and automate all learning activities, whether it's building online classes, assessing students, enhancing collaboration, or tracking progress and achievements. It also allows teachers to develop early interventions based on the data presented by the system that are also based on the automation rules and conditions set. Choosing the right learning activities. So please also remember that learning will be virtual and remote, and you want to make sure that the platform and its features can support these activities, as we want to make sure that students are engaged and motivated and to keep their attention. Here are some of the recommended virtual activities that you can do when you are teaching online or using a digital platform for learning. Forums or discussion forums where everyone can participate and share ideas and opinions about a particular topic. Debates also, you can do debates where students can challenge each other. Also, Wiki is a good learning virtual activity you can use. Also, we have online group activities, online exams. Web conferencing is also a good virtual activity that you can do if you want to keep your students more engaged. Group chat, you can do group chat if you want to do synchronous delivery. Online free-form assessments, gamification modules also, it involves using game-based elements such as point scoring, peer competition, teamwork, score tables, and leaderboards to drive the engagement of the students. Competency-based learning, or CBL, it helps tracks the information about the knowledge, skills, and abilities learners acquire as they participate in courses or other learning experience. So lastly, evaluate for success. So after implementing e-learning in your classroom, make sure that you evaluate. And these are the three keywords for you: guide, monitor, and adjust. So guide the teachers, students, and other stakeholders such as parents on the process and what to do, and always be there for them, motivate them, and support them. Monitoring, you need to keep track of the progress for both teachers and students so that we know what needs to be adjusted. We need also to develop appropriate evaluation tools, develop effective feedback system, and to create a help desk, not only for teachers, but for students too. So after the implementation phase, and after you have evaluated what's going on and what's happening in your teaching and learning process, make sure that you make the necessary improvements, upgrade, innovate, and think outside the box. And also it allows you to transform the school culture into a culture of learning. Our plan, implement, evaluate process is designed as a continuous cycle, incorporating a growth mindset to allow you to transform your culture into a culture of learning, enabling organizational knowledge and feedback along the way. So as you move forward or further in the journey of transforming your culture, it is necessary to continually assess your achievements against your goals and adjust your plans accordingly. So you can use this process in a continuous cycle when you plug in new goals that increase in complexity as the faculty and staff in your school gain the competency. And once a goal is achieved, you can start the process over again, beginning with a new goal. So the perfect formula for a disaster-proof education will be the right tool plus the right pedagogy plus the right strategy. I will share some tips, practical tips for e-learning. And this is by Mrs. Jen. She's the Global Director of EdTech at Cypher Learning. So tip number one, do asynchronous sessions. Online learning does not always have to be synchronously done. Tip number two, do not overwhelm your students with too many online assignments and activities. Tip number three, do not panic. Upload lessons and activities one at a time. Tip number four, sharing is caring. So share lessons and activities that are common to teachers. Tip number five, help each other. Open communication lines where teachers and students can communicate with each other. So amid the disasters we are facing today, and while most schools are closing and suspending classes, teaching and learning can continue using different digital tools for education. More importantly, we can make education disaster-proof if we prepare with a little of creativity and a touch of technology. Thank you so much for your attention.
Thank you for this session, Mr. Karam. We already have posted questions if you want to read them out.
Okay, thank you. So we have a question. How can those who are in the rural areas or those in the remotest areas access internet learning? This is a good question. So, of course, we have rural communities which they don't have internet. So one of the solutions that you can provide them with internet through, so, you know, access to bandwidth and reliable power is very expensive and even not reliable. And most of South African countries has frequent power outage, and some universities have power generators in learning centers. So having some power generators in these rural communities can help with this. So we have another question. The other edu disaster is the embracing the teaching profession, which subsequently leads to students see their teachers as the one lost hope in their life. As such, it caused learning become difficult. Of course, the learning will be difficult, but teachers can support and can help students. So they can provide much support and guidance about for how they can design a good quality and blended learning experience. They can build a quality framework on how the structure will be for every course. This will help the students. Also, they can create an online document or even create a course on the LMS where they can put some principles to help teachers start building the communication with the students. So we have a question: what are the current challenges school systems face in terms of switching between technologies and upgrading? So also this is a very good question. So for leadership, we have to have effective leadership in relation to information and communication technologies, formulation of and implementation of IT policies, e-learning policies, and also access to digital education and e-learning content. So you have to access to IT equipment and educational technologies. And you have to use the latest technologies, educational technologies. And most of schools and universities are using outdated educational technologies. And they need to have the best technologies to help them with their digital transformation. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Mr. Karam. It was a pleasure having you on board. Thank you so much for a wonderful session with us.